Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have truckers that are stuck at the border in the Coots border crossing in Alberta. We have truckers stuck at the Ambassador Bridge crossing in Windsor. We have an occupation in Ottawa that has hit the citizens and residents and small businesses extremely difficultly. And we know that a significant portion of funding of this convoy is from foreign US dollars. So will the Prime Minister do everything possible to stop this convoy and these protests by contacting US officials and investigating where these funds are coming from and working with them to stop it?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're working very hard with partners at different levels of government to make sure that we're ensuring that the flow of funds to criminal activities is interdicted. We're going to continue to do that while all the same time ensuring that there is a right for free and open legal protests. That is extremely important in this country. I will highlight, however, the irony that the member opposite brought up, which is indeed a harsh one, that when this convoy originally was all about truckers protesting, now it's truckers being protested, being prevented from doing their jobs of putting food on our tables and supporting our manufacturers.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
We have truckers on the border at Coots, on the border in Windsor, who are blocked. And there's a siege, an occupation in Ottawa. The impact of the convoy has resonated throughout the country, and it's clear that they are funded, at least in part, by foreign money. Will the Prime Minister contact his counterparts in the United States to stop the flow of funds? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have worked with our partners, including international partners, to make sure that we are monitoring funds going to organizations and businesses and activities that are criminal in nature, and we will continue to do so. It's interesting to think about the fact that the convoy and the blockades, which were supposed to be by truckers, are now actually negatively impacting truckers in their work to deliver groceries to the store, to deliver merchandise and products to our manufacturers. Truckers are now victims of this.
Cumberland Colchester.
Here. Mr. Speaker, last year an all-party parliamentary committee urged the Prime Minister to promise he wouldn't call an election. In fact, at that time, the Prime Minister himself said he had no interest in calling an election during the pandemic. Canadians were misled. Instead of prioritizing the health and safety of Canadians, he forced an election. This begs the question, why did the Prime Minister jeopardize the health of Canadians to save his own job?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in that election, Canada had an extremely important conversation about how to move forward through this pandemic. And partially because of the clear answers...
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt the Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester asked a question, and I'm sure he can't hear the answer with all the shouting going on around him. So I'm just going to ask everyone to tone down so that the Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester can hear the answer. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in the last election, Canadians were presented with a very clear choice of moving forward with strong vaccination policies that would ensure Canadians were safe, or the Conservative proposal to not really step up on vaccination, not even ensure that all of their members were vaccinated as MPs, and not the kind of leadership on science they wanted. Canadians made a very clear choice to choose and vote for parties that supported vaccine mandates, and that's exactly what has gotten us through this pandemic to this point, with lower death rates than other countries around the world, despite all the tragedies we have faced.
Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, sadly what we ended up with is seeds of division having been sowed and Canadians suffering. We've suffered financially, socially, morally, mentally, and physically. And according to the Misery Index, we are a very miserable nation. Shame. For almost 2 years now, Canadians have borne the yoke of loss, uncertainty, and lack of hope. The backs of Canadians are about to break. Canadians are miserable because of the Prime Minister. We want to know on what date the mandates will end.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again we see the Conservatives are willing to twist the facts to their own partisan ends. The reality is vaccine mandates and the fact that Canadians stepped up to get vaccinated to almost 90% ensured that this pandemic didn't hit as hard here in Canada as elsewhere around the world. We stayed focused on following the science, on promoting public health rules, and Canadians stepped up in their communities. They stepped up for their frontline health workers. They stepped up for each other, and Canada has never been so strong and together as we are now.
L'honorable député de Charbot-Saint-Charles.